What's the most fucked up drama from somewhere you've lived? A guy convinced every single family member of his, including the kids and the elderly, that he was possessed by their dead patriarch. The entire family was found dead, hanging from the ceiling like the aerial roots of a tree. An act they all willingly participated in, as some sort of ritual. Netflix has a detailed documentary on the event, and it's a whole lot scarier and creepier than what little I have written. Woman calls her mother at 3 a.m., tells her to come get the kids. Hangs herself off banister. Her husband was found upstairs hidden under a pile of blankets, stabbed a ridiculous number of times. Rumor has it the guy was a special ed teacher and the wife found out he had been molesting and sexually assaulting some of his students. 50-year-old teacher fucked a 16-year-old student, he gave her an STD and then his wife murdered him. I didn't see the accident. But while living in Jamaica I saw a man carrying a mangled body just walking in the country. I later learned they were brothers, and worked construction together. One brother fell from a great height, and the other brother was just carrying his body, walking towards the hospital even though the brother had died on impact. He was just in a terrible sad mania. In my hometown, the mayor's kid got drunk and killed someone in a hit and run. He got a slap on the wrist and the mayor was re-elected. Our assistant pastor took in his 3 nieces after his brother died. One day, the town discovered that all 3 of them were suspiciously pregnant around the same time. A social worker called the police to investigate what was going on. Turned out the pastor had been sleeping with his own flesh and blood. His wife knew about it and didn't report it. He was arrested and did a stint in prison. Upon release he became a spiritual healer. He has since gone blind. My parents and I left the town before finding out what had become of the girls after the saga. My job just had me train a guy who quit after a week and then murdered one of his family members. There was a fetish burglar who terrorized my hometown and broke into around 150 homes. My mom was terrified for years. Super creepy shit like taking small personal items, stalking, eating food from fridges, laying out panties down the hall in a pattern, tearing up photos, etc. My house and my grandmother's were in his hunting zone. The cops downplayed it. He was caught 40 fucking years later and is now known as the Golden State Killer. Some asshole threw out his son during winter. The son froze to death. It took place in Russia, a town where my grandparents lived. An entire family got murdered and their house burned down. Everyone thought it was the dad, but it turned out to be the uncle who was involved in a gang and did it as part of initiation. When I was in primary school there was a girl from a large family in my class. She kept to herself and was overall very quiet. When I was about 10 it was discovered that the dad and 2 eldest brothers raped the sisters for many years. I felt incredibly sad for her. Mayor filmed smoking crack and talking with fake Jamaican accent, then goes on to address cheating accusations by telling assembled reporters that he wouldn't eat another woman's pussy because he has plenty of pussy to eat at home. Guy from the next town over abducted and murdered a little girl. I was involved in the search when she went missing, but she never turned up. Bone fragments were eventually found in his fireplace. Edited to add yes, April. My best friend lived in Mac. The crows have taught themselves to bark exactly like my dog when she is being fierce. They fly over her head, barking loudly at her, which upsets her sister and the neighbor's dogs. Total chaos. A mother called the police because she was having a fight with her 16-year-old son. Police show up, mom meets them outside. All 3 enter the building to go to the mom's apartment. They never made it past the hallway. The 16-year-old killed both cops and mom is still in the hospital. She was in critical condition. This is the most fucked up thing so far this year. 2 or 3 high schoolers set up a drug deal where they'd supply the product. The person buying, also in high school, had about $20K on them. They end up robbing the kid, shoot him dead, digging a hole and lighting the remains on fire. They then go to a car dealer and pay cash for I'm not sure what kind of car, Beamer maybe. They were caught, obviously. When we lived in Richardson, Texas, Marina Oswald Porter, Lee Harvey Oswald's widow, was our neighbor. She had remarried by then. Marina would often come have coffee with our mama, and her kids would play with my big sister. I wasn't born yet. My sister did something to make Junie mad, and Junie told my sister, "My daddy killed the president, and he would have killed you too." Guy I knew broke up with his fiancée, who quickly began dating his younger brother. The younger brother and her are now married. Must be a fun Thanksgiving table. Probably the band teacher banging his 8th grade student, his wife divorcing him and taking the 3 kids during the trial, it getting out that both the wife and the student were pregnant. Then the guy killed himself in his prison cell. 3 teen girls, underage, were at a party. The parents were serving alcohol. Predictably, the girl driving them home, drunk, wrecked the car upside down, into a creek. She survived, the others did not. They drowned. It was in the winter and was pretty sad. The driver showed up at court wearing a t-shirt with an alcohol, I think it was vodka, advert. The judge did notice and was livid, I heard. I never heard how the lawsuit against the idiot parents supplying the booze went. I'm sure they lost everything and then some, and rightfully so. High school senior was killed in a hit and run. Another high school student was driving. They confessed later and were let off with a warning. One of my best friends was the senior's girlfriend. She still hasn't recovered from that, and it's been 2 years. The kid who hit him moved to another town due to how people treated him afterward. Our town has 3 cops. 2 of them were having an affair. They were doing it in the back of a squad car and managed to somehow lock themselves in with no clothes in reach. They were discovered the next morning by some kids on the way to school, who called their parents, who then called the 3rd cop to come get the other cops out of the car. By the time the 3rd cop got there, a good portion of the town, including the spouses of the trapped cops, had gathered around to witness the hubbub. Here's the kicker, at least to me, only the female cop that was involved was fired. An old lady was found dead in her assisted accommodation after having been dead in there for 8 weeks. I think a few jobs were lost, but it was insane they only found her because of the smell, and staff were meant to be checking in on them. So sad. A lady from my school district got caught making out with a minor in her car while half nude. She got arrested and the kid got mocked because she wasn't a hot older lady. DSSCPS came and took their 3 children. Within 2 months she was pregnant again. By the time she had this 4th child, they still hadn't gotten the other 3 back. DSS let her keep the 4th. I thought they should have taken it as soon as it was born. Longtime family law dynasty got ruined by a son's drunk boating accident, fake suicide attempt, double homicide, and likely the murder of the other son's gay lover, and possible cover-up of the housekeeper's death. Some embezzlement and addiction sprinkled in as well. During high school, a classmate's brother had a mental breakdown and killed both his grandparents. It was the talk of the town for a long time. In my ex-wife's hometown, the pregnant girlfriend of the chief of police's son vanished, and the son wasn't even looked at as a suspect. My old neighbor used to used car lot to sell drugs as a front. Bad deal went down and he and an associate burned the cop in the car that was undercover. Cop was killed and body was found in a burnt-out car. He went free somehow and the FBI raided his house 2 years later. He was gone after that. In the city I currently live in, a lady in a nightclub pooped herself in the middle of the club. And I mean pooped as diarrhea. There was shit spread everywhere and there is pictures of the musicians covering their noses. The city I was born. A well-known gynecologist in the city was arrested for raping grooming his patients while they were unconscious. He was charged with more than 270 years of